Rudy, a big day today in terms of certainly what we expected, and that was the meeting between Mark Carney and the Canadian delegation meeting with Trump today. From what you've seen and heard, what did you make of what happened?
I believe it was a cordial meeting, but we still have no deal. The Minister LeBlanc said that we made progress, that they were instructed to continue the talks, especially on aluminum, on steel, on energy. But what we could understand from President Trump is that tariffs are going to continue, and he said it. We are, and that's how President Trump characterized it, said it, that we are in a conflict in terms of we both want to have, for example, a car manufacturer in our country, and that Americans don't want to buy Canadian cars, but we'll try to find something or a landing zone. But at the moment, we still have no agreement. So it was a very cordial meeting. Even Prime Minister Carney said good things to President Trump. He said he's a transformative president. He highlighted, for example, his work that he did in terms of a peace plan in Gaza. He also highlighted something that is very interesting. He said that Canadian companies are making $500 billion investment in the U.S., and perhaps we can double that amount, which is kind of odd because in Canada we're saying that we have to make Canada strong, but at the same time highlighting Canadian investment in the United States. And obviously the fact that we didn't still have an agreement, but that talks are ongoing. President Trump, from what we understand, said good things about Prime Minister Carney. They had a working lunch. It was a 2-hour meeting between Prime Minister Carney and President Trump. It was a 30-minute presser, a very long presser, but the tone was very cordial.
You know, this idea about the $500 billion, the extra $500 billion, which would take us up to $1 trillion investing in the U.S., it seemed to me, Rudy, that was we'll give you that if we get something. Where's the we get something part?
That's what we don't understand exactly, because from what we understood from President Trump, he again highlighted how it's important to have tariffs, how the U.S. got ripped off in the past, and how he wants to attract investment in the United States, and that, again, Americans don't want, for example, to buy Canadian cars, and that he wants to bring back cars in the U.S. So it's very interesting to see what's going to happen. Are they going to lower tariff, for example, on steel, on aluminum? As you know, those are the main exports of Canada to the United States. So if we cannot manufacture car anymore in Canada, if we cannot export our aluminum and our steel or even our energy to the U.S., that puts Canada in a very difficult position. Even if we still have the ongoing free trade agreement, the CUSMA, don't forget that our main export are still with 40 to 50% tariff depending on the categories.
So, I mean, maybe it's not fair to ask, but if you had to imagine what's going to come of this, right? You know, it's not going to be supply management, right? That's pretty much off the table, I would think. Donald Trump spent a lot of time today pointing out during the part that I saw when Mark Carney was in the Oval Office with him, he kept bringing up autos. And to your point, right, we want to build them here. We don't want to buy them from Canada. Where do you think the room is to be able to come back and say, yeah, guess what? We're going to save some money on this tariff or that tariff. Is it lumber? Is it steel? Is it aluminum? And if not, where is it?
Maybe, and that's just a theory. Maybe we're going to have what we call tariff rate quota, which means a certain number or level of aluminum or steel or, for example, lumber would be sent without tariff. And after that level, for example, 100,000 cars or 200,000 cars, for example, a tariff will apply. Those are the kind of venues that is possible. Okay. That, for example, that what happens with the European Union or other trade agreements. So maybe this is something that they're negotiating, because there's one thing that President Trump said during the presser that is very interesting. He said, we're working on formulas. What exactly are those formulas? And that's why I'm putting forward that perhaps there's going to be a level of export that's going to be tariff-free. And after that level, maybe 50%, I don't know. So maybe those are the kind of ongoing negotiations, but we don't have more information.
All right, let me turn to the other issue today. You know, we have protests in Montreal and other places around the country as well, or at least around the world as well. It is the 2-year anniversary of the Hamas massacre of over 1,200 Israelis. And today, I'm curious, Concordia shut down classes because this was going to be held on their campus. And I heard, it was the Israeli Consul General on this morning with Elias, complain and say, that's not what they should have done. What's your take on this with respect to what should have happened?
Look, it's a very sad anniversary. It's been 2 years. There's still, and we have to remember that there's still hostages, and I know there's negotiation right now happening in Egypt, but there's still hostages. They haven't been released. Some families still haven't been able to have the body of their family from Hamas. So I do believe that it's not the right moment, especially on the day of the anniversary where 1,200 Jews were killed because they were Jews, to kind of say, oh, celebrate or just make a protest saying we have to be on the side of Palestine. There are ongoing negotiations for peace right now. Perhaps we can see something constructive out of that agreement, perhaps a withdrawal, perhaps also making sure that everybody put their weapon down, including obviously Hamas and Israel to also back down. But we'll see what happens. We have something happening. I don't think it was the correct moment to kind of make any protest, especially on that day. It should be an anniversary to remember the people who died.
By the way, to your point about Carney and Trump at the beginning, they mentioned, or he, I guess, mentioned, Mark Carney did, Gaza, the situation. Did we have, was there an engagement between the two on that at any point that you're aware of?
No. Just Prime Minister Carney just highlighted the fact that everybody is behind the Trump initiative when it comes to Gaza. And President Trump said that negotiations are ongoing in Cairo, in Sharm el-Sheikh.
Okay.
Sorry.
Last thing, really quick, municipal election. I asked our audience today. We have a Leger poll out from just 1 day ago showing that the biggest part of this election so far seems to be all the people who don't know who they're going to vote for. That number's at 42%. What do you make of this?
It's very good. It's going to be very important to have as many debates as possible. For example, there's a big debate at 7 o'clock on TVA. There's a lot of Chamber of Commerce who are organizing debates, especially, and it's very interesting because normally when you don't want to do too much debate, but in this race, that's why both contenders, they want to do as many debates as possible because they need exposure. They need the media exposure exactly because people don't know who they are. They don't know their character. They don't even know their program or their platform. So I think that you're going to see a lot of different debates until election day. And normally in an election, you want to do maybe 3 or 4. But I've seen already a lot of debates, and it's ongoing right now.
All right, we leave it at that. Rudy, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll. I'm coming to get you! One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's all. Bryan Adams Radio. I'm coming back to you. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app.
Everybody,